Welcome, fam, to the week 3 recap of the FFFL 2023 season. And this week on our recap, I have a familiar face that many of you know. What is your name, sir?
It would be John Andrew Stevens, better known as Andy.
Welcome, Andy. And how are you related to the family, Andy? Oh, God. Already
To
stuck.
everybody, pretty much everybody. I know all of them up and down, and here in a week and a half or so, EJ will be part of the family. It's growth.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I know I
Well,
met Glenn at your wedding, so
that's
it was
true.
good to see him on the first podcast. That was excellent to see.
Yeah, so you even know him. I mean, he might remember you, who knows? But at least he knows now. Yes, you are my uncle, and the uncle of multiple people that are in this league. And as you said, also oddly related to like everybody in some way, shape, or form, which is pretty cool.
Unfortunately, I broke the streak of high scorers being on your podcast.
Yeah, this week low scorers on my podcast.
I was third lowest, not
Oh, were you
low.
third lowest this week?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Actually, my bad, my bad. But either way, yeah, you are. You definitely broke that streak. But you were talking about how you're connected to the family, and so I want to bring up something that you shared with me, and maybe have you talk me through it a little bit. And this is part of the family as well. So I'm going to share my screen here and bring up this little guy. So what is happening here?
This is my grandson, Axel, 7 years old, playing flag football.
Okay.
And we went to Joanne's company party beforehand, and they had face painting and stuff. And he wanted to be a scary pumpkin kind of character, and he wore it to his flag football game.
That's awesome.
And the other kids were like going, "Hey, this is cool." But every time I saw him make a play, and I did send out his long run for a touchdown to
Yep,
everybody,
you did. That was a nice
but I
run.
could not help but laugh every time. But I think this is what football players, even in the NFL, should start going for. I mean,
That's true. I mean, that would actually be pretty cool, man. Like somebody does like a all out face painting
yeah,
in the NFL. That would be pretty
instead of
sweet.
just the black on their cheeks and stuff, man, do something
Yeah.
like this. But he's a good young man, love him to death. But he's pretty fast, good player, and
That's
scored a
awesome.
touchdown and caught a pass for an extra point. So yeah, he's doing well.
Nice. That breakaway run looked good, man. I was saying that he looks kind of like one of the creatures from where the wild things are. Kind of
Yeah,
got a little bit of that going, especially with where the horns are and all that kind of stuff. He is definitely a scary pumpkin.
he's
But
uh, he's a good kid.
that's
And
awesome.
Brianna's boy, and he's a good boy.
Well, we appreciate you sharing that because this is all about family, and I always love that. So I think that could be a cool new segment that maybe I force people because you didn't force it. You just said, "Hey," you shared a photo I thought was cool, but maybe I'll tell other people it's like a show and share. That's what Tage has, show and share every Wednesday. Maybe we got to
Absolutely.
do that on this podcast now, a show and share from the guest.
Yep.
But
I agree with you. I mean, this is what it's all about. It's a family thing. We can give each other shit, but we still are family.
yes, unfortunately, at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to for many of us. But
Just because you got beat by your wife, but we'll get to
I
that.
we'll get into
Okay, all
that.
right.
Well, you know what? How about this? How about we start with the ass whooping of the week instead of talking about my wife and I so far? I can't remember who was in that on the losing end. Uh,
Let me look at my notes. Um, I think it was me by just
yeah,
barely. I mean, there were some close ass whoopings, but I think mine was probably the worst.
yeah,
But,
yours was down there.
and
Casey
then I got
whooped
beat
you.
by Casey. Oh my god.
Yeah, and he whooped you pretty good. So that's the other thing I will say is he whooped you pretty fine. I think he was just shy of 140 and you were just shy of 90. So there's about a 50-point difference in
I had
total.
90, I was 7 points, man. Well, you know what? You kind of wonder, is Zach Moss for real? Because he's had a couple of weeks in a row here, which
Yeah.
he has on the
Yeah.
team. So I'm glad to see that because again, my name Colt fans. I love the Colts. I love the Miami Dolphins in Reno. But the worst thing was I think was it Sunday night or was it Monday night? I can't remember. I got my nights confused, but watching Devontae Adams going off for 36.7 points, that just killed me.
Yeah. That was
And,
Sunday night.
but he had a pretty solid squad. Unfortunately, I had 5 players in single digits, and
Yep.
Robinson only got me 10 points. And I'm seriously gonna keep trudging along and fighting the fight, but I think my team's young enough that towards the end of the season they'll be better. But I gotta be at least 500 before I get there.
Yeah, that's true. I noticed from your skill positions, like your running backs and wide receivers specifically. I guess I'll throw your tight end in there as well. Like,
He's
yeah, it was
soft.
like 34 points from 5 players total. And those are big. I mean, you made Kirk Cousins, obviously that was an important one for you to have in there. But man, that was tough. And Casey, all of his players played well, except for I mean, Brees Hall was like the only one who way underperformed. Otherwise, everybody else was like in double digits and scored well and he
Even
almost got high score of the week, but Sam eked him out, so he was close to that. But yeah.
Watson even played well. I mean, that was one of the
Yeah.
first weeks where Watson showed up and stuff. So I'm
Yep.
hoping things turn around. But some of the teams that I drafted were supposed to be high scoring teams, and they just haven't come around yet. So I'm hoping they turn it around. And I mean, like Trevor Lawrence, for instance, he was one that I drafted as my lead quarterback. And I think last year he did the same thing to Allison, where he just didn't play well in the beginning of the season, but at the end of the season he started playing well.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna gut it out and see where we're at.
Well, she had Herbert last year, but it was the same kind of deal. It was like
She
things
also
weren't
had
going
Lawrence, but
well.
she dropped him.
What?
She had Lawrence, but she dropped
Oh,
him.
got it. Yeah. No, that's true. I forgot because she was debating on who to play, and then she eventually just dropped him to stop debating and going with Herbert in general. Um, but
But she
but
had a
yeah,
good
it's
week.
it's a tough one, and you threw the right quarterback out there with Kirk Cousins. It just didn't really go your way, so you got your butt whooped by Casey Ace, who's now 2-1. So nice job, Casey, and just shy of that 10 buckaroos you could have got this week.
Casey, you're on my target now.
And you made the list. But now we'll go to nail biters because we had a few nail
That's right.
biters. Um, but we had a few nail biters this week, and we'll start with really the closest one that ended the closest, which was Mahomes Slice. So Zach versus Louis, and Louis just edged him out by like a point and a half on Monday night. Because coming in Monday night, they were within 5 points. Licho had Jalen Hurts going, while Zach had two players going. He had Higgins and Evans both going. So it was kind of who's going to outscore the other. And Hurts did it for Louis. He got it done just enough.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I kind of saw in this, I mean, it was probably the closest, but um, most are scoring 44 points for Louis, just kind of put him over the top.
Yeah.
All his beloved Cowboys scored -2 in the
Yep.
defense. So,
Yeah.
but I love Zach to death, and you know I love Zach to death. But watching him agonize did not hurt me at all.
But what?
Watching him agonize
Oh.
over the last night's play did not hurt me at all. I'm sure he feels the same about me. But I mean,
Well, Zach, but I will say Zach is like your standard. I say your standard fantasy football player, like manager, where like it's never nothing is ever good unless it is like solid victory in your hands, meaning like you're way up because he was fretting. He's like, man, I'm gonna freaking lose, like because he was on a Zoom call. He kept saying it, and I'm looking at his projected point total, and it's like evenly matched with Louis the whole time. I'm like, but he's freaking out, like I'm gonna freaking lose because Mostert's going off and blah blah blah.
Yeah, he's always, I don't know about my team. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
But I mean, like when he drafted Ford as his backup and he scored 20 points.
yep.
That's a great move.
And he picked up Kareem Hunt too.
Samuel,
So
yeah, well, you know what? Kareem Hunt, I think he's lost 2 steps. I don't think he's the same person, but he has Samuel back to looking like Samuel. So
yeah.
Debo's back there. I mean, I would have to give him shit about Taysom Hill, really.
Trying to catch that lightning every few games. You get some lightning.
Three
So
point, 4 point. Yeah, well, yeah, once in a while, but
yeah, it doesn't
yeah, he has
matter.
a solid team. He's fine. But I know
Yeah,
he's hard on himself, but that was a great matchup. That was probably
that
one of the better ones to watch.
yeah. And I had said so
Love them
last
both.
week going into it. I had said that's a matchup I'm looking at because I think both of those teams are really solid teams, and I think they're both proven that they are because both scored. I mean, at a like to me 110 plus. Like you should expect that you're going to be in contention to win the game. Like every time you're scoring that, and they both did that. They're both right around there, and Licho was able to pull it out. Like you said, that's also why you need players like a Mostert and these boom players that will get you these huge games because they can win a week for you, and that's what
Well,
happened
and
for Louis.
here's kind of an anomaly though, is that you think about it, because unfortunately, Achan, because he ran for 200 plus yards, so he gets to change his name. But Achan, and Mostert, they had 101 points between the two of them.
Yeah,
They
crazy.
outscored Hill and Tua. So
Yeah,
that was crazy. So pick up Broncos defense.
pick up Broncos defense. Is that what you said? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually I am playing Broncos defense potentially next week. They're playing the Bears. So I might actually play the Broncos defense against Justin Fields, but that's for another time. Let's move on to another game. So the next game that we have is a really super duper important one that I ended up losing. So Allison, field goal, scored 128 to my 122, and so she took me down. And the winless Allison now has a win, and the undefeated me now has a loss. And somebody was really rooting for that one. But yeah, I was up 22 points going into Monday night, and she had AJ Brown and Puka Nakua, and I'm like, I've lost. I'm not winning because at least one of those guys I'm expecting to go for 15 to 20, at least one of them, and she ended up beating me by so they combined for 28, which isn't great. Like that was, but they got it done, and I was definitely a little worried, but obviously it was Herbert and like Keenan Allen, me be able to separate that. And Keenan Allen normally doesn't do games like that. So I'll take that. That's the reason I was even in it, was from 40 points from Keenan.
Keenan Allen. Yeah. And I mean, you probably thought you had it after Thursday night with 48 points in the bank,
Uh,
but
I was
that
hoping,
kind
but
of hit in the
yeah.
ass. Um, but here's
Jacksonville got me negative points, so that didn't help. With my
Can't, yeah,
defense got me
well, and
negative.
that's the other thing is I was going to say is if you would have flipped that, even if you would have done 4 points positive, you would have beat her, but you didn't. Um,
Correct.
Kenneth Walker has been playing very well, more than I thought he would. I have him in my other league, and I have him backed up with Charbonnet, but
Yeah,
he's been playing very, very well,
he
and
has.
he hurt you a little bit. And Herbert was back to being Herbert, but that was a matchup with Minnesota, who has no defense. So,
Correct, but
but
I think Herbert's going to be good all year. I don't worry about him, but you're not going to see performances like that out of him or Keenan against most defenses. So yeah, unfortunately, I lost that. I now have to plan a date night. So that was basically our. I know EJ had asked what were we going to do, and so yeah, our bet basically between each other was the loser has to like plan and do a whole date night.
And can
So
I just mention something here? Because you called me a hater. I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater, but I had reasons why I wanted her to win, and it did benefit. It it's not going to probably benefit me all the way, but it moved me up a spot in the waivers. So hey,
I'm glad she could do that for you. Okay.
thank you,
Yeah.
Allison.
But I still hold that I still have the most points scored in the league. So I'm going to hold on to that like it matters.
Humble brag for Greg.
That wasn't even a humble brag. That was bragging. That was I got the most points scored in this league after 3 weeks.
That
I don't
was
want
a
to hear it. All right, well, let's get away from that game. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Okay.
okay.
Uh, but we'll move on to another nail biter that was like the lowest scoring matchup of the week. But it was Datseki, which is Glenn versus Green Bastard in the toilet, Kyle. And obviously, Glenn's without Eckler still. And I believe he also was missing another player, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I think he had, oh, yeah, he was out Anthony Richardson, as well as Brandon Ayuk. He had three players out of that matchup, and he still pulled out a victory with 92 points. Anything that you took away from that lowly matchup right there?
Exactly. It was a lowly matchup.
Well, going into
Uh,
Monday, it was close. It was within 4 points going into Monday night, and they each had a player to go. So Glenn had Matt Stafford, and then Kyle had Rashad White. So
and they
quarterbacks
both
are going to normally
performed
score a little
terrible.
bit more.
It was
So you're
terrible.
Yeah,
I
so you're kind of
watched.
explaining that. And both scored crappy. Like Stafford got like 13 and a half points, and Rashad White got him 8.5 points. So that's why I ended up being like a 9 point victory for for Glenn. And it was they both players tried to lose it for the other team and they couldn't.
Well, and to his point though, Glenn made a good move though, picking up the Chiefs defense
KCD.
because
Yep.
yeah, I almost picked them up against Chicago, but he
Well,
made
it's
a good
funny.
move there.
He's done it 2 weeks in a row where he picks up the defense, I think, against the Bears. I think that's what he's done. And both weeks it has paid off. So when I tell you that I'm
I
picking up the Denver Broncos defense, this is why. Because the Bears, that's what Glenn's going to do. I guarantee Glenn's going to go after the Broncos defense. You got
well,
to do it, Glenn.
it's probably not going to happen, but I don't think they're going to get 70 points scored against them like my Miami Dolphins did.
No, because
Um,
the Bears don't have an offense.
true.
So, yeah.
Well,
And Kansas City's got a good defense. I will say, no matter what
well,
people
Chris
say,
Jones.
yeah, but every year they actually have a solid defense because they focus on turnovers. That's what they're that type of defense is focused more on getting pressure and creating turnovers. They'll give up a lot of points at times, but when you have a Mahomes, it's kind of like what the Colts did when Manning was there. Like they know that they're going to be up in games and you're going to have to throw the ball more, so they were more focused on rushing the passer and getting turnovers. And it's the same for the Chiefs defense.
I think that's a case where you have an offense that creates turnovers on defense because they're so high performance that they just score points. And even if they don't score points, they're moving the ball so much that
Yeah.
the other team feels like they have to press it
Yep.
and they make mistakes.
Yep.
And but with Chris Jones back, they're a different team defensively
Yeah.
than were without him. But I think they create turnovers just by the way they play the ball so fast
Yeah.
on offense. It gets the other offense making mistakes. But
And
no, I
going
think
for it.
I'm sorry.
And going for it. I mean, you notice that teams go for it more against Kansas
Sure.
City because of that reason too. They go for it on fourth down more. But yeah, that was we won't go too much further into that. But you're right. Him picking up Kansas City defense that helped vault him into where it was because they got him. It was them and Amari Cooper. That's what saved his day.
Amari Cooper had a big and just Glenn, so you know, Amari Cooper is good for a game and then he disappears for 3 or 4.
It's coming from experience with Amari.
Yes, I've had him.
Oh, he didn't really do it that much last year, though. Last year was one of his better years for fantasy purposes. So I don't think he really did that too much last year. But you're right. He is more of the boom bust kind of guy, especially with the Deshaun Watson throwing him the ball. So that's going to be tough. All right, let's move on. We got a couple more matchups to hit. We had one that was close going into Monday and ended up being not close at all at the end of it. Sam ended up winning by, I think, almost 32 points, even though it was within 3 points going into Monday night. But Sam trounced EJ. So the Cheesehead champions lost with 109 to Suck a Dick, who won with 141 and the high score of the week. So kudos to you, Samuel, for getting the $10 you have. But anything that you took away from that matchup and basically what kind of put maybe Sam over on EJ?
Sam is a very balanced team. Um, although the Bills scored 31 points on defense,
Helpful,
that's a big killer right there.
helpful.
But he is a very balanced team up and down. Even on his bench, he has good strength. And welcome to the league, EJ. You're not going to win everything. I just know.
Well, EJ's 1-2, so he's only beat you. So
I know it, but I'm low hanging fruit right now.
right now, you are a brutal team. Right now, I'm not gonna lie. I won't even sugarcoat it for you, Andy. You're a little tough, but yeah, going into Monday night, I think EJ only had Kyron, and I want to say EJ was up three with Kyron to go, and then Sam. But Sam had Mixon and Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase came back to life just like AJ Brown did. So he's back to scoring some points, and same with Mixon. Mixon and I think Chase had their best games of the season so far for them this past week.
But so if you look at Sam all the way up and down, like I said, he's very balanced. And even though Justin Fields is, not doing very well right now, he had 7 of the 8 teams in double digits. 7 of his 8 starting
Yeah,
players double digits, with the defense getting 31. But he also had 3 other people in double digits on his bench, and Sam Laporta being one of them. And even Pat Fryermuth at 11.6 was pretty respectable. And tight
yeah.
ends has been
Dude, if I got
trash.
11.6 for my tight end, I'd be ecstatic.
I would be happy. I would be happy if Dallas Goedert would get off his ass and score me 11 points. I
If a
agree.
tight end gets into double digits, I'm real happy with that. Like that's kind of where it goes.
Agree.
Because even with
And
Allison, I felt for Allison because Parham got 2 catches. They're both touchdowns. It was like that Mike Evans day, and that's what he got. But Everett's the one who got more passes. He was like 6 for 60 or something, or 6 for maybe 40, something like that. But it's like he was getting the targets. She makes the right move, but in the end zone, they're obviously looking for more of a Parham. But anyways, it's a different game. But yeah, Sam's really well balanced. I mean, he's got a good squad, and really EJ does too. And we'll get into that more maybe when we get to the weekly matchups. So we'll save some of that because I've got a few thoughts on a few teams that have good teams and some players maybe playing down right now, and as well as maybe players coming back. So yeah, you're maybe one of them. But we do have one more matchup, so I don't want to leave them out. I don't want to make them feel bad because we don't
don't
really,
screw up like last week.
yeah. But Bob went ahead and beat up a little bit on Tyler. Bob scored 112 points, actually almost 113 points, whereas Tyler scored about 85 and a half. And Tyler has now remained the only winless team in the league. I hope he feels bad about that, and I hope he feels it in his heart that he needs to make some changes in his life to get this corrected. What do you think? What do you say, Andy?
I really don't want him to pick anybody up in waivers because I'm tired of seeing players get hurt.
So
And
true,
my
man.
second point is if I was going to trade with somebody, I probably wouldn't trade with him because you might get the injury bug too. So I
you're,
feel bad
you're,
for him.
you're
I
you're
feel
saying it
bad.
extends all the way to if he were to trade with you.
Exactly. But I mean, Burrow doesn't look right. I watched that last night. He just doesn't look right. I mean,
Right.
he's putting P Ryan. Um, he just not a lot of options. He's got a lot of injured
No.
players. I mean, Barkley's out. Hopefully he gets him back. He just he's beat up.
Yeah, we have a special visitor. Oh,
Hey,
what's up?
hi
Hey.
Tage. Oh, Dr. Tage.
Yeah, who are you? Who's
Doc McStuffins.
Doc McStuffins? Doc McStuffins. I don't know the song, but
Me neither.
you neither. Yeah, right. You probably know the song by heart. Yeah.
How are you today?
Bye.
Yeah, what are
Good.
you up to?
I up to because I went to preschool today.
How was it?
Good.
Yeah.
Do you like preschool? Do you have a lot of friends?
Yeah.
That's
There's
what's
lots of different friends in Miss Zoe's classroom, and they came into our classroom, and they're
that's
still
awesome.
staying in there.
That's cool.
Well, good for
That's
you.
awesome.
Yeah.
I am not surprised whatsoever you have so many friends. You are such a cool girl,
That's nice to say.
you
What do you
know?
say?
Heart.
Yeah. Oh, that is a heart.
Have you checked your dad's heartbeat yet?
Let's check my heartbeat. Let's make
Let me
sure
stand up.
you're gonna stand up and check it.
You should
Oh,
have
yeah, because
probably
you got to
had
put the
it last
stethoscope.
night when he was getting beaten by his
Yeah,
mom.
I was
By your
asleep.
mom,
I was
yeah.
asleep at that point.
Oh, okay.
Can you feel a heart? Feel a heartbeat?
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, pink.
Thank you.
Now I need to do the back.
Oh yeah, now we gotta do the back. Now you gotta do like the breaths.
The breathing. That's
The
right.
breathing. Okay. All right, take the breaths, and then we gotta get back to the podcast after that. Okay, I'll do my breaths. You tell me. You tell me what to do, Doc.
Breathe in.
Very good.
Breathe in. Out.
Oh, you are so good with that.
In. In. One more.
One more. Okay.
One more.
One more. Okay. No, not my butt. My butt doesn't need it. All right. Can you say bye to Uncle Andy
Bye.
Okay.
and bye to everybody else
Okay.
out there?
Love you,
Say,
sweetie.
say good luck in week 4.
Good luck.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love y'all. All right. Bye. Thank you, Tage.
Yeah, I got my yearly physical in like 2 weeks, so let's not talk about butt.
No.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Good.
Uh, I tell you what, Bob's team, going back to that last thing we were Bob's another one. I think him and Sam. So thank you very much for stacking my division with a bunch of
Hey, these are who drafted.
yeah. I got a big uphill to climb. Bob's
Yeah.
got a good team. He's looking pretty strong.
He does. When you can have like Brian Robinson on your bench and things like that, that means you're doing pretty well. You're doing pretty well. So yeah, I do like his team a lot actually in a lot of ways. So you are right. So he's a tough one to face. Tyler getting hit by the injury bug. I mean, Saquon is out and probably not. Who knows if he's going to play this week either with the high ankle sprain. You have Mike Williams now that's out for the season with a torn ACL. He had Jamal Williams go down during a time frame when Jamal could have still gotten a good workload there because now that Kamara's coming back this coming week, there's less carries already for Jamal Williams, and so you don't get to have him at a peak time for Jamal Williams. Like it's just not going Tyler's way again this year, and it happens. That's what happens
He's
sometimes.
focusing on graduating in December, and he should
Yeah,
be.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So don't worry about any of this stuff. But that was a wrap up of this week's matchups. A lot of good matchups this week. A lot of different things changing, and we'll get into next week's matchups at the end of this, and that's where we can kind of talk more about divisions. And it's still early on, but there's a lot of changing now that's going to be happening amongst divisions, so it'll be kind of cool to see. But before we get into that, let's talk to Dr. Sam and find out about the week 3 injury reports. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and make sure we can listen in to Dr. Sam. Well, thank you, Dr. Sam, for that information. Actually, some really good information I found at the back end of that when he's talking about people who were already injured coming into this week and maybe what their injury timeline looks like. Because when he mentioned Saquon Barkley and Austin Eckler looking like week 6 returns, I mean, it's only week 4 right now. So if you're the managers of those players, you might be without them for the next two weeks as well. What do you say to that?
Anytime they say they're week to week or they don't give you a timeline, that worries me.
Yep.
Really does. And I mean, I'll go back to what we talked about with Tyler's team. I mean, Joe Burrow doesn't look right. I mean, with his throwing and stuff, but you got Eckler out. Um, Carr, how long? They didn't say how long he's going to be out with the AC
Yeah.
joint.
No, I think they went week to week. I mean, so when it's week to week, as you know, that's usually multiple weeks because there's day to day, which you hear a lot. You don't hear week to week a
Yep.
lot, and that definitely means he's definitely out this week, potentially the following week, and it just goes from there.
Oh, it could
Yeah.
be 3, 4, 6 weeks. You don't know. And
Yeah.
again, I mean, Dr. Sam knows better than us, but and like you were talking too, we've lost some other players that, I mean, Williams out for the year, like you said,
Yep.
and that comes up quite a bit. But I don't want to be that person, but that doesn't surprise me. Mike Williams has
Yep.
had injury problems his whole career, and hopefully he gets better. But he always has that issue. But I think losing Diggs for Cowboys, like we talked about, I think that hurts their defense tremendously because he creates turnovers in that defense.
Yes. So for
And
those who don't know, Trayvon Diggs is a cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys, and he has a torn ACL, I think, as well. So yep, out for the season.
yep.
And we saw the impact of Dallas' defense this week already, with him gone, where the Arizona Cardinals beat Dallas. Didn't not look good.
Defense did not look good in that game, but
No.
I mean, yeah, there's good information in that, and there's a lot of. I mean, at this time, I know we're only in week 3, going into week 4, but you start getting to the point where now players are playing hurt all the time,
Yep.
and they're going to play hurt throughout the season. So you need to monitor it. You need to monitor waivers, which we'll get into in a minute and stuff. But
Yep.
I mean, there's players out there, but you just got to keep an eye on your team because there's injuries that crop up. You need to look at practice reports throughout the week because sometimes some of the veterans don't practice just to get rest, but yet there are some true injuries where if you don't see them practicing Thursday and Friday for a Sunday game, chances are they may not play. So you need to monitor that.
Yeah, if someone's ever not practiced during the week, it's like a 1% chance they ever play in that game. So yeah, monitoring that. And the early game this week is Lions and Packers. So the Lions versus the Packers on Thursday night, which will be a really good game actually in a divisional matchup here in the NFC North. But so monitor that because there's multiple players within that game that have injuries. Like you have Aaron Jones, he's been dealing with a hamstring injury. There's Christian Watson, wide receiver for the Packers, who's had a hamstring injury. You have my guy David Montgomery, running back for the Detroit Lions, who is dealing with more of a thigh issue right now, and they're saying he might be available for that, but because it's a short week, a lot of times those guys with those injuries, that's a tougher thing for them to come back from. Is exactly that. Basically, is it's a shorter week, so you just got to be monitoring that, keeping your eyes on the, or I guess keeping your hand on the pulse of what's going on with those players, and those are always questionable. We love the questionable tags, so that's always fun. But yeah, now that we've heard from Sam about some injuries, we've talked about it a little bit ourselves. Let's go through some of the waiver pickups in our league that might be helpful. I'm gonna do like I do every week and start at the quarterback, then I'll go to running back, then wide receiver, and then tight end. So we'll start with quarterback. Is there any quarterback in our free agent pool that you'd be interested in?
Interested in?
Well, here I'll say, if you were someone who needed to play a quarterback, who you playing?
Well, my top pick would probably be Garoppolo, but he's questionable because he's in concussion protocol.
Yeah, I know.
Pickett would probably be my second pick, but he's erratic. Zach Wilson's still out there if anybody's interested,
Yeah.
but they
I actually put
Trevor Simeon today.
Oh yeah, that's not a good sign.
Help.
Not
That's
a good sign.
help.
I mean, I put the same. I mean, if anything, I would. Here's what I'll tell you: if Jimmy Garoppolo plays, and I had to play somebody from the free agent pool, that's who I'm playing. Because I just think their wide receiver core of everybody that's in that list is the best one that's there in a better offense. I'd probably stay away from Kenny Pickett. He had a good game this past week, but not before. But a weird one I'll throw out there is Jameis Winston. I mean, he's a guy who's going to throw the ball. He was a little rusty, but he was 11 for 16 for 100 yards, and they're coming in off the bench for Derek Carr coming in cold. So if you get some reps with those guys, you've got a healthy Michael Thomas who's looking better. You have Chris Olave, you have Rashid Shaheed who's looking good. They got some deep threats, and Jameis Winston can throw the ball downfield. I actually don't mind that as a potential like dart throw to say, hey, you got a guy that might be able to throw a few touchdowns, but we'll see.
You're gonna have to live and die with him because if you do pick him, he's gonna throw touchdowns, he's gonna throw interceptions, he's gonna have a fumble. I mean, it's his history, unfortunately, but he does have a good receiving core, so it's possible.
Yeah, not many quarterbacks out there right now. I'll just be honest, and I think it's a tough week if you're trying to stream them. So try to avoid that. But we'll move on to running backs. There's one running back on the in the free agency right now that a lot of people might be looking at. His name is what now? What's his? How do you say the name again?
It's
Is
not
it
a chain. It's um
Achan?
A-Chan. That's
Yeah,
right.
he
After he runs
corrected
100
everybody.
yards, you get to change your name.
Yeah, and
So
everybody's been calling him A Chain forever, and then he finally like comes out and corrects everybody. It's so weird
exactly,
now that he's
exactly.
a much more of a thing. But yeah, Devon A Chain got what 50 some points or something crazy.
56 points between him and Mostert. They scored 101. Yeah,
Yep,
56.9 in our league. He's probably the number one target for everybody. He is a good looking rookie, but this first 2 weeks he did nothing. I'm going to go back a few years because New England used to have a guy named Orlando Gary that
okay.
was undrafted free agent, comes in, runs for 200 and some yards on a Monday night, and actually lost me that game. But he ran 200 and some yards because somebody was hurt. And then I think he was on the roster for 5 weeks and then they cut him.
Yeah.
So, and I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
saying that's happening with this guy, but if people are chasing points, they're going to go out and grab this guy. He's not a bad guy to grab. I had him on my roster, but I had to make some difficult choices. I think he's
Yep.
a great pickup. He's a good looking young running back, but also you got Jeff Wilson coming back. And then you got the other
And
dude
and
coming back.
Jalen Waddle wasn't in this past game, so you even got to look at that and to say, yes,
True.
that's somebody else taking opportunities away, whatever if it's a rush or a pass. I mean, Jalen Waddle's a wide receiver for the Dolphins, so he's more catching passes, but it's still opportunities that are going away from others. So I would agree. Like Achan is a good one to pick up. He's going to be the top. He should be a top waiver pickup this week,
Absolutely.
but you have to understand like he's a boom bust guy in my opinion. I don't know that he's a weekly start, and then if he
Right.
is, you better have a more consistent player to pair him with because you're going to have weeks. Nothing like this week. This won't happen again. This is crazy. What they did, what him and Moser did together is historic. It's never happened before.
It's
But
not
either
gonna
way,
happen.
I think you've got a guy there that could get you 20 or he'll get you 4. Like that's where his reign and probably less than 4, right? Once Jeff Wilson is back, I mean, it could be that he got 4 opportunities total, so it could be bad. But yeah, so he's one. And the other thing I would
The
say is the free agency,
Miami guy.
yeah, Miami. But the
I love
other
the
thing I would say
Cowboys.
is outside of him, it's choose your backup. Like if you wanted to get a backup running back from some team, feel free if you got the space, I guess, to do it. I mean, I did it with Dowdle this week because Montgomery was out. So I was like, you know what? I'll put Montgomery on IR. I'll pick up Dowdle just to have him on the roster in case something were to happen to Pollard this week. And now I get to make a decision. Nothing happened to Pollard. Dowdle didn't do bad, but either way, that's something you can do. Wide receivers, though, I actually felt like there's actually some decent wide receivers on this list for me at least, that I like, and you probably have a couple that you might like as well. What are some of the wide receivers in free agency that you might pick up?
Well, I think obviously Tank Dell from Houston is going to be one of the big pickups, and he's had two
Yep.
back-to-back weeks. Good. Um, I think he's a solid player. Seems like there's chemistry now between him and CJ Stroud. So
Yep.
unfortunately, I got Nico Collins, so that kind of hurts me there. But I think he's a good pickup. I think Josh Palmer, he's on our list. He's on our waivers
Yep.
with Mike Williams being out. He's another good pickup. He's number 2. Well, he'll be the number 2 probably going forward. But somebody that kind of popped up on my radar here a little bit, and I don't know if it's because, Downs from
Yep. I like him.
Indianapolis.
Yep.
He's kind of sneaking up there, and he's kind of overtaken Alec Pierce. So I think
Yep.
we're pretty good there. He looks like a good one. And I tell you what, another one, if Jacksonville gets their offense right, DJ Chark is still out there.
Oh, you mean
And he's not
Carolina?
a bad receiver.
You mean Carolina?
I mean Carolina, excuse
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
If Bryce Young gets healthy and they get their, I'm sorry, Carolina, you're absolutely right. But if they
He
get
used to
their
play for
offense,
Jacksonville. Yeah, he used to play for Jacksonville.
that's correct. Yeah, but he's still a good receiver. And if he gets right and Bryce Young can get right and they can protect Young, which has been Carolina's biggest problem, is they have no offensive line right now.
I know.
So I think those are 4 that I picked out that I think will have a positive impact. There's a couple others. Dobbs, I think, is out there or was out there for Green Bay.
I don't know if Dobbs is out there or not. He
Yeah,
shouldn't be. He shouldn't be out there. So I don't think he's out there. But you actually hit on 3 of the 4 that I had as well: Tank Dell, Josh Downs, and Josh Palmer. So
yeah,
Tank
you're
Dell.
right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. But yeah, Tank Dell, wide receiver for Houston Texans, Josh Downs, wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts, and then Josh Palmer, wide receiver for the LA Chargers. As you mentioned, Mike Williams going down. LA Chargers gives him more of an opportunity. The only other one that I put on here, and it wouldn't even last that long or that much longer, is Calvin Austin for the Pittsburgh Steelers. With Deontay Johnson being out, he's gotten more run and actually gotten some decent targets. He's a real speedy guy. This past week wasn't great for him. He got a big touchdown, but he's still getting usually 5-6 targets a game, which isn't too bad either. But could be another guy. I wouldn't highly recommend him, but just someone to think about. And lastly, we'll touch on him.
The reason I passed on just real quick is his catch rate's not that high.
No, I think, but that's a
4 and 6 and
yeah, that's a Pickett thing more than anything in my opinion. I'm just not a trust me. I had Pickett. I picked him as my starting quarterback in the draft. Let's just say I dropped him. I think before that even happened. I think before the first week I already dropped him, and I picked him in like round 11. Let me say it did not go so well for me, but yeah, let's move on to tight ends. A couple names on there I noted. One at the very top, but I don't know if you saw anybody in tight end land that you might be willing to stream if you needed to.
Yeah, because Dallas Goedert's done nothing for me. So yeah, there's a couple. I mean, Musgrave seems to be getting targets in Green Bay. He seems pretty well. I think Logan Thomas is coming back, if I'm not mistaken, and he'll probably see some targets. There's really not a whole lot. I mean, tight end is
there's not. You already hit on both that I was going to talk about, which is Musgrave and Logan Thomas. And Logan Thomas is like Logan Thomas is, as you mentioned, he gets targets. That's what he gets, and he is Zach Ertz. Him and Zach Ertz are the same player. They're older tight ends that just suck up targets because they're always 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. That's where they hang out.
And some of them aren't even good targets. They just get targets. They want to throw the ball away, so they throw them towards the tight end, and they count it as a target.
You know, and for me, there's people on here I want to be good. Like Dalton Kincaid was like a top tight end coming out this year, and he's on the Buffalo Bills, a good offense, but he's splitting time with Dawson Knox, who's still getting their tight end work as well. And like, you don't really want to go after guys that are in like a 2 tight end system. Chigakonkwo for the Tennessee Titans, it's just a low passing offense. I mean, they don't throw the ball much at all. They're not very good at it. So that's a tough one. And Cade Otton, I'd love to see Cade Otton do well for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's like the only tight end they have. It's his second year. He's a pretty good talent, but they've got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin who are taking up all the targets, and he's just not getting consistently enough. But usually he's used to be around 5 or 6, but just not getting a ton. And so yeah, the tight end landscape is looking sad. It's just sad. That's all I can say. Take your pick. Throw your dart.
Back you up on the Buffalo Bills one about Kincaid and Knox. Both of them are on the wire. So if that tells you anything right there, they're not getting looks. They're not getting targets. And volume is king in fantasy, unfortunately.
Agreed.
And so Cade Otton, I'd like to see him do well. He's a good looking guy, but man, it's erratic.
Yep.
So yeah. Okay, we can move on. We can talk about defense, go pick up the Broncos because they gave up 70 to my
I
Miami
don't really talk
Dolphins.
about defense on
So
here, but if you want to talk about it, I guess we can. I don't really go there because I always think of it as
now I just wanted to bring up the Miami scored 70 on the Broncos. I'm good with that.
so the funny part is we're gonna bring up that Miami scored 70, which was the second highest ever in history. 70 on the Broncos. And I would
I,
suggest if anybody is looking for a defense to play next week, including myself, to go pick up the Broncos because they play the Bears and therefore they probably should be picked up because take Glenn's advice. Just play the defense that's playing the Bears and you will do well. Glenn has shown this format to work. And the funny part is they're like, oh, I don't even think they're. Oh no, they're still available. They're on here. Don't worry, they're here. But yeah, they're pretty bad. And I picked them in my other league as my starting defense. And let's just say I've had to move away. I now have the Cleveland Browns, so that's been helpful. But anyway, anyways, let's get away. We're done with the waivers.
we're
Hopefully,
down
y'all find what
to
you need. And waivers do go this morning in the morning, so make sure you're getting your waiver claims out there now if you want certain players. Ours refresh every after each week to kind of worst record slash lowest on the totem pole being first, and then the number one team being last. So make sure you're getting your waiver claims in tonight because they roll around like 3 in the morning. It seems about Central Time, like 3 a.m. ish. Central Time is when they roll out. So make sure you get those in.
Hence, I was not a hater. I just wanted a better waiver claim.
Yeah, because that's my comment of the week. Okay, so I'm gonna throw some shade because my comment of the week is that comment of "Go Allison, I'll be rooting for you." Oh, what a dagger to the heart of your nephew. How
I love
dare
you.
you say such things?
You have a wonderful wife and a beautiful little girl, but
I know.
I just wanted to jump up
Yeah,
because I knew I was getting my ass kicked. There was no way I
listen,
win.
just like I
Sunday,
said,
that's why I was quiet because I knew I was getting my ass kicked. And I watched my nephew. We went to a picnic. We went to his game, and I didn't
football.
care because I was getting my ass kicked. But I just wanted a better waiver claim. That's all I wanted.
And I feel you there, but when they already got the good looks and stuff, like they're and they got great personalities, they're set. They're set. Give it to those who are less fortunate. Give the W's to
Ooh,
those who are less fortunate.
we come from the same cloth, okay?
You know,
So,
yeah, that's true. That's very true. But yeah, that was my comment of the week. I was offended, so offended.
I'm
Um,
sorry. I love
but
you.
But let's get into next week's matchup. So we went through this past week. We found out a few things about our teams. I think we're 3 weeks in. So you're sitting just shy of the quarter way through mark. You're evaluating your teams. Now is about the time when in other leagues too, like people start to maybe send out some more trade offers, and they're feeling like, okay, I've got some data under my belt to know that Justin Fields just ain't gonna get it done this year. It doesn't feel that way after 3 weeks, and so moving on. But we move on into the week 4 matchups that are coming up, and each one has some good implications because in our division, at least in the East, I believe that's my division is the East. I don't know.
Yeah, the Cush division. Okay.
The Cush division. No, man, we're battling it out.
Okay.
We're either
Red.
2-1 or 1-2. So at the end of this, it's a tight race so far in our division here. But with that notated, me and Louie are battling it out. That's the one I'm obviously looking at because it's in my division. But Louie and I are at the top 2 spots in the division. So I'm number 1 in the division. Just want to let you know I'm still number 1 even after my loss last week. But
Okay.
Louis is number 2, and this is an important match because I think whoever wins this match retains number 1 seed in the division. So that's an important part. And as you know, all these division battles mean something because a division win is like an extra win, or at least an extra half win, because you now have that tiebreaker or whatever over that other team. So those are always important. So I'm definitely focused on my matchup. You've got a matchup though against Bob. You got an important matchup there as well.
I'd rather talk about yours because I could be whoop ass of the week again next week.
You
Uh,
could.
I
You
mean,
could.
you guys really do have one of the closest matchups by far. And yeah,
Yeah.
I put and right now he's projected 20 points above me, but um,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
I don't see a whole lot I'm gonna be able to do to take it over. I may have to do some magic tricks or something, but
yeah,
um,
it's going to be a little tougher for
I tell
you.
you, if I can get at least to the halfway being 50-50 or 500, I think my younger players will start playing, but I need Jacksonville's offense to get back in line.
Yes, you do. You need that.
Robinson, gave me only 10 points last week, and he's supposed to be a stud receiving and running. Lamb had a terrible game, so he's got a good team. So
Yeah.
a lot of work to
Yeah,
do.
he does have a solid team, but I think you need to get Aaron Jones back. That's what you need. You need Aaron Jones's ability to really he's got the ability to go for 30, and so you need him back because AJ Dillon, they've even shown now that
Yeah,
he's not the answer. They don't even put him like last year was like the year to see. Okay, you were hoping for more from him even last year, and he underwhelmed last year. This year, I actually liked him coming into the draft this year because I thought he's under the radar. He's got a same role. He's another year more experienced. He should be able to do this. And with Aaron Jones out, seeing the amount that they're putting other running backs besides AJ Dillon on the field, and it's gotten worse every week. Like this past week, I felt like I barely saw him on the field. I'm not
so
kidding. I was like, "Where's AJ Dillon?"
there was this statistic fantasy wise out of his, and now it's 17 games. If he doesn't score a touchdown, he's not double digits out of 17 of his last 17 games.
Yeah, that's
So,
crazy.
yeah, I mean, he has to score a touchdown to be relevant. So I'll
Yeah,
be honest, somebody out there that I may drop for another upside guy, but
yeah.
um, somebody that came into the league with so much promise, and he did have a good year or two in the beginning, but man, he's just falling off the cliff. And
Yeah. So you're needing Aaron Jones back to replace AJ Dillon. I was actually able to trade. Now I told you Kyron Williams and AJ Dillon for Josh Jacobs, and
move.
I think that was a huge trade on my end, and it was for partly because of that. Like Kyron Williams, he could be something, but I think he showed this week he didn't even score 10 points in our league, whereas Josh Jacobs got like 12-ish or something like that in ours. Nothing great, but to me, Josh Jacobs is on the upswing. He's getting back into football shape. He's doing all stuff, whereas Kyron was on that hot streak. I think he'll come back down to reality. And AJ Dillon, I think, has shown us what he is, and unfortunately, for what we might want from him, he ain't doing it.
Nope.
But every matchup has something. I mean, I've got even Glenn and with Glenn and Zach. I mean, technically, if Glenn probably can't get to first because he's like 50 some points behind me and like 40 some odd points behind Louis. So I don't unless he somehow outscores one of us by that many or more points and beats Zach. Glenn could technically go into first place, like in our division at that point. So that's kind of a big deal there. And Zach, I think, is just kind of in a similar space with a lot of you, just a team that's underwhelming right now and not performing to what you thought they would.
But to Glenn's point, if he gets back, and I don't know the update, unfortunately, I could not hear Dr. Sam, but um, uh, if he gets back, Eckler, Richardson, and Ayuk, there's three studs right there
Oh
that
yeah.
could help him out tremendously.
Well, he gets his
So,
starting quarterback there. He gets who's played well for especially for a rookie. He gets his number one player of Austin Eckler back, and then you get Ayuk, who was a top receiver at the time he went out. So yeah, that's huge. I
yeah.
think Glenn's got a team that's actually really good, especially for an auto drafted team. His team is looking pretty nice. That's going to be a tough matchup. Allison and Kyle are playing for the toilet bowl, so the Bass Turd is definitely on his way there.
They got the same record I do, so I
Yeah,
got you.
you're headed for that toilet bowl as well, man. You better beat up on Bob this week in order to avoid that. Um, and then
They
I
got
put shoot, you've got Casey. I mean, Casey's going up against EJ this week, and Casey is surprised over the past couple weeks. He's 2-1. Casey's team 2-1, being another auto drafted team basically, and he's done well to manage those people. And then
He's got some challenges ahead, though, I think.
yeah, but he's also got Jonathan Taylor coming back. So Jonathan Taylor will come back after this week. I
But I
mean, that's
think
what it
also,
seems.
I think EJ has a pretty decent bench. He's too many quarterbacks, but he's got a pretty decent bench. And if he gets Cooper Kupp back down the road, he could be strong again.
Yeah. I mean, he gets Kamara back this week. He'll get Cooper back, hopefully, for him in a few weeks. He'll get Cooper back. He's got a really good team right there as well. So I agree. He's got a good squad there. And then the last matchup we have the number one team that's the only team that's 3-0, which is Sam, facing the only team that's 0-3, which is Tyler. So you got something's got to change, and something's got to give, or something's going to stay the same. Either we're going to continue with undefeated and defeated, or we'll regress towards the mean of everybody and get a 3-1 and 1-3 record out of that game. So we shall see. But it doesn't look great for Tyler. Got to make some good moves, Tyler. You're gonna have the floor of whoever you want. So hopefully, Achan will do it for you. We'll see.
You got to get. I hope he doesn't see this till Wednesday. Okay.
He doesn't. He doesn't pay attention to these. Tyler doesn't watch this. I already know it.
Go to
I
bed,
know.
Tyler. You got finals.
Yeah. Yeah. You got other things to do. Don't do this.
And we don't want to see anybody else hurt.
Correct.
So
we don't
pick them up.
We do not. But that's gonna do it for this week 3 recap. Anything that you want to add before we really head on out and close it out?
Real two quick things. The first
Yeah.
one's quick. Adrian Peterson is on Dancing with the Stars, if that gives a shit for
Really?
anybody.
Really?
Yeah, he's got
Okay.
to be relevant somehow. But I put it out there on the chain and everything, but this Philly push with the QB,
Oh,
that needs to be discussed. I know they've talked about banning it. I don't like it. I think it's something that's
Yeah.
got to go away. But
well,
I
yeah,
mean-
but I thought that was already a rule that you can't push
they
from
did
behind.
not pass that. No, you can't pull them.
Oh,
An example, this Monday, Dallas Goedert actually was, I mean, if they would have called it by the rule, Dallas Goedert was actually pulling Jalen Hurts crossed instead
Got
of pushing him. And I hate that rule. It's not rugby. It's not football.
right.
I think they need to get rid of it. They talked about it in the owners meeting and they passed on it, but I hope next year they just get rid of it. But I guess my question is, why aren't other people doing that if Philly's having
Yeah.
so much success?
That's
You know?
true. I mean, I don't know why not either, unless they look at it as an injury concern. But you also have teams like the
That's
Chiefs.
my concern.
So think about the Chiefs though. So and this will tie it in. So the Chiefs do all that funky stuff when they're on like the 1 or 2 yard line, and it's so many shovel passes and motion and all that kind of stuff. Why don't all teams do that? You know what I mean? Kansas City
Well,
is so
ring around-
successful with it.
Exactly, but ring around the rosy is not going to get you injured. You know, have you ever
Right?
seen
No. But to my point is simply, while I see what you're saying, it's like it's just to me it's the same argument as to, well, why don't more teams do what Kansas City does? It's because they're not Kansas City. It's because they
Sure.
don't have the ability to do it. And so for theirs, maybe not so much. I don't know. I don't know why it seems to work in Philly. I think it just became the thing. But they have an amazing line. I mean, they have like the best line in the whole
mine in the NFL?
in the NFL. So I think that's what also helps out with that a ton, because you can call it a push, and it is. It's more people pushing, but you got to get the initial push on that line, and they have a line that just works so well together that it works out. But
Jalen Hurts can squat 610 pounds, so I guess that's one reason they do it.
that could help too, I guess. Yeah. But
I don't know. I watch that play and I just cringe every time, because what about linemen getting hurt? I mean, maybe that's something Dr. Sam can talk to.
it's true. That's
But
true.
no, thank you for having me, and I
Always love having you.
I hate being the bottom feeder, but I will keep fighting because I am not going to lose.
I was 0-3 last year. I did not make the playoffs, but I did not go into last place. So, and I started out 0-3.
I'm going to lose. I'm going to keep fighting. So,
Well, you do that, Andy. You work on your team. You start motivating them now to make sure they can get better. Okay.
all right. Love you guys.
Love you
Everybody
too,
take
Andy.
care.
Thank you again, and good luck to everybody out there this week, except for Louie. I hope you lose, Louie. Hope you lose real bad.
You
Okay.
talking to me?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. All right. Love you all. All
Love
right. Bye
y'all.
now. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We'll